Hey everybody, what's up and welcome back to my garden. Today we're going to be doing kind of just a really quick February winter garden update, taking a look at some of the things that are going on outside of the hoop house as well as some of the things going on inside the unheated hoop house as we're kind of working towards growing hardy annual flowers for our cut flower garden that's going to be coming into bloom in the springtime, which I'm really excited about. Just a quick update on the hoop house in general. I know a lot of people were really worried when I first built this thing, like, are you sure this is gonna be strong enough? This looks kind, I don't know if that's gonna work. Everything is doing well, holding up well with the hoop house. If there's a video showing how I built it, if you didn't see that, you can find that on my main channel page. Anyhow, to make a long story short, it is about 40 foot long by 12 feet. It's made out of PVC, some PVC clips, and some just regular, clear plastic. It isn't greenhouse plastic or anything like that. It's just plastic sheeting that I got from the hardware store. So really simple, pretty cost effective for what I'm doing here in my little tiny backyard. I mean, being honest, this thing basically takes up the entire backyard, so I can't really complain about the job that it's doing. So far this season, it has encountered several wind advisories that it has survived. I should mention that it is surrounded by a privacy fence, so if this thing was just out in the open, I don't think it would have fared as well with the wind advisories as it has if this thing was just out in a field. But with the privacy fence kind of blocking the wind a little bit, this has done really well. And over the last month or so, in the month of January, we have been getting blasted with some snow. It's not unusual that we get snow here where I am. I'm in zone 6B7 in Kentucky. This last period of snow, I think we ended up getting about 6.5 inches here where I am. And it did require me to go out into the yard and scrape that snow off the hoop house several times overnight while it was snowing, just because I wanted to make absolutely sure that this plastic wasn't going to rip, or that, the actual PVC structure of the hoop house itself wasn't going to start to sag. I just wanted to make sure that this had the best chance of surviving that storm, as best as possible, and luckily it did. About a week or so after that, we had another snowstorm and got another, I don't know, about 2.5 or 3 inches on the hoop house, and again, it weathered everything just fine. I didn't even have to go out and scrape that time because the weather was drastically colder. I know I get a lot of people asking me what my actual winter weather is like here, because the whole process of growing things over winter can be a little bit confusing if you've never done it. But we do actually get some really cold temperatures here where I am. And for about a week straight, we were in single digits, and I think the lowest temperature that I recorded was -3 degrees Fahrenheit. And of course, those are the actual temperatures. The wind chills for those days were like -16, and it was pretty cold. So luckily, things have warmed up drastically since then. I'm in kind of a growing zone where it does get cold, but those periods of cold are usually pretty brief before they, warm back up, quote unquote. And by warm, I mean, temperatures in the 20s and 30s. Anyway, I was lucky enough to have things inside the hoop house do pretty well with this spell of cold temperatures, so I thought I would take you guys in there and see how this stuff is doing. Now, to protect all this during these periods of cold, I had the hoop house completely closed, and I had an Agribon 30 row cover over top of all the plants. Ideally, if I would have had it, I would have added more frost protection, like a higher, like Agribon 50 or whatever they go up to. I don't even know off the top of my head, but all I had access to was this 30 row cover, and it seemed to do the job pretty well for the most part, though we do have a couple of plants that are looking really rough. I'm going to try to sync the audio for this video for the plants as best as possible. But do keep in mind that my video editing software is terrible, so it might get a little bit out of sync. Outside the hoop house, our spring blooming bulbs are starting to grow a little bit. We have some of those drumstick flowers. We have some Scilla campanulata, I think it is. It's the Spanish bluebells bulbs coming up. We also have some muscaria coming up, and as far as I can tell, I think we also have some crocus. There are signs of tulips pushing through the ground, and of course we have daffodils too, but I don't think I recorded any footage of that for this video. Also outside of the hoop house, we have our larkspur seedlings, which are doing amazingly well. I am so surprised that these are still alive. Being honest, these had been covered, but the wind ripped off, you know, the low tunnel. And I was just like, oh well, you know, I don't have anything to replace it. Let's just see how these do. And I am so surprised that they are still alive. I'm keeping my fingers crossed that they will carry into spring and make it through spring. Into the hoop house, walking up the sides of this, we have just a hodgepodge collection of things like English daisy and scabiosa and love in a mist and some pansies. Just kind of a random planting of some of the trays that maybe didn't do as well in the fall planting that I made. Moving up, you know, further down the way, we have things like verbascum. Of course, we have some calendula. The calendula did not fare very well through this cold weather at all, which I'm not surprised at. I've tried to overwinter calendula here in the past, and something about the combination of our wet weather and cold temperatures, it just makes it really hard for calendula to thrive in the wintertime. So it'll be interesting to see whether or not these plants go ahead and die back or if they'll survive to bloom. Very interested to see that. Moving on down the hoop house, we also have some Godetia or Farewell to Spring. They're still alive and doing well. They've really started to sprawl and kind of fall over in these last couple weeks. I don't know what I'm going to do in the future. Maybe look for some kind of trellis system or way that I can prop these up. This is definitely, I feel like, going to be a learning experience for growing those for the first time. Other things in the hoop house look to be doing fairly well. Things like the agrostemma and the bachelor's buttons obviously doing great. Sometimes those don't even need any protection to survive the winter. The straw flowers, however, I will say the straw flowers were definitely one of my biggest losses in this cold snap. Even though they were in the hoop house and under a row cover, over half of the straw flowers have completely died back. They're turned brown and mushy. They're done. I'm not sure if it's possible for them to resume growth in the spring from the root system. I'm not sure if that's possible, but for now it's looking pretty bad for the straw flowers, even though they did seem to demonstrate at least some tolerance to the cold. Other things like the Canterbury bells, we have our snapdragons that are hanging in there really tough. We have our stock flowers, which admittedly did get some damage, which I'm really worried about it. Growing the stock flowers was one of the most exciting parts of the hoop house for me this year. I was really hoping that we'd have success with the stock flowers, and they're looking a little bit rough, but there is some green growth there, the growing tips, so I'm not getting too discouraged yet. I'm just gonna hope for the best on those and hope that they recover. Other things we got growing on in here, we have our Icelandic poppies. They are looking well. They're getting nice and big. They did have a little bit of damage. Some of that damage is starting to die off a little bit, but I think they're going to pull through just fine. Additionally, the ranunculus are looking good too. No signs of flowers on the ranunculus yet, but should be any time now that February's here and the day lengths are getting closer to that 12-hour mark. I think our ranunculus should be starting to think about flowering just as soon as it warms up. That's really about it for this video. I hope that it was somehow helpful. I hope you enjoyed our little tour around the yard to see what's going on. Even in this drastic cold weather, there's always a cut flower that we can grow, and I'm just so excited to see what survives into the spring and what our springtime blooms are gonna look like. If you're new to the channel, hit subscribe and hit that little bell icon. If you haven't seen any of my videos before, I am a flower farmer. Well, flower farmer in my backyard. I also grow vegetables and make soap, do all kinds of DIY projects. So if you like a random surprise, you might like this channel. And we're trying to get to 10,000 subscribers, so I'd really appreciate it. You know, share with your friends, all that good stuff. I hope that you guys are having such an amazing day, and I will talk to y'all later. Bye, guys.